Well, hi, and welcome to episode 159 of Level Up. Yep, nearly at the 160 mark. So 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions will drive our show. Ella's in the chat, so please say hi and let her know the name of the city you're watching from. It's great to have you interacting. Get your questions in early as well. Post them in the chat. Follow the QR codes that you see on screen. You can do that from your mobile phone if you want to. We, of course, will post a link in the chat for you to vote up the questions that you would like us to answer, and you can also add your own using that as well. If your question is selected, your name's going to appear in the credits at the end of the show, so get yours in early and stay with us to see that happen. So today we're talking about how to become a business relationship manager. Now, part art, part science, the successful business relationship manager really needs to have a unique set of skills to enable them to add value to any organization. There's absolutely no doubt that organizations will benefit greatly when you embrace the business relationship management function and obviously have skilled BRMs on the team. There's a great quote by Patricia Fripp, that I love. It says, "Technology does not run an enterprise, relationships do." So how can you develop these skills and become a BRM? Well, so to answer that question, and of course, all of your questions, which of course we hope you're going to put in today, we have a wonderful panel joining us. So let's jump right in and meet them. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining today. So I'm just going to walk around the panel and get the introductions here. The first person I'd like to introduce on our panel is Jyoti. And Jyoti is an IT business relationship manager at SCI. She maintains strong partnerships with stakeholders and business partners, and she firmly advocates the significance of human skills in advancing organizational relationships. Welcome, Jyoti. Jyoti, we can't hear you. Okay, Jyoti, we'll come back to you. I'd like to introduce Ahmad. Ahmad is a digital transformation exec. He's got a diversified experience. He's been in service leadership, managerial, technology, pre-sales, consulting. He's a highly respected builder of critical partnerships and strategic alliances. Welcome, Ahmad.
Thank you, Nigel, and thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to share my knowledge and experience with the respected panelists here as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ahmad. And our next panelist is Darrel Popowich. Darrel's a seasoned executive with over 30 years of experience in the tech industry, which is a lot. He's recently joined the BRM Institute as the Chief Visionary Officer and COO. He's also a respected thought leader in the field with a passion for business relationship management. Welcome, Darrel, and I believe this is your first Level Up episode.
Yes, thank you, Nigel. Really appreciate being here and being able to participate with this panel and talk about something that I have grown up believing in, and I look forward to the conversation today.
Fantastic. Thanks, Darrel. And no stranger to Level Up is Luca. After spending 20 years in many roles in the IT industry, Luca started his own company called Equality Italia. And, the purpose of that company is to have a positive impact on Italian organizations, training their and coaching, of course, their leaders. So welcome, Luca.
Thank you, Nigel. Very happy to be here. This is for me the end of a week training BRMs, starting from senior ones and ending with very junior people. So a great week for relationships and a great closing.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thanks for joining again, Luca. And of course, one of probably our most seasoned panelists on the show, Mart Rovers. Mart's a coach, educator. He's been doing this for a long time. And I think his passion is really about ensuring that people understand what it is that they need to do when they get back into the workplace. Mart runs INTERPROM, coaching, consulting, and training education firm, right? Yes, business relationship management, service management, IT security, the list goes on. Welcome back, Mart.
Thank you, Nigel, and thank you, APMG, for having me. Welcome, everybody. Looking forward to some great questions. I already saw that some wonderful questions have come in. I'd like to start off setting the tone. Since we're talking about relationships, business relationships in particular, this episode, I found a nice quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "The single most ingredient in the formula of success is knowing how to get along with people."
Very good point, Mart. Appreciate the quote. Thanks. Jyoti, are you
Theodore
back with
Roosevelt.
us? No, I think Jyoti's struggling with your audio there. Okay, no problem. We'll get back to you, Jyoti. All right, so our question master for today is Adriana Santana. Adriana is joining us from London. So welcome, Adriana. Looking forward to the show.
Hi, Nigel. Very excited to be as QM again and very looking forward to today's show.
Excellent, fantastic. Thanks, Adriana. And I think let's jump right in and take our first question.
So our first question for today comes from Stephen, and he wants to know what is the difference between customer relationship management and business relationship management?
The difference between customer relationship management and business relationship management. I think, Luca, why don't you start us off with that? Who else would like to join in that one?
Yes, thank you. So the two roles have many commonalities, but customer relationship management is more focused on making a relation between a customer and a buyer organization alive, while the business relationship management is more focused on people working in the same enterprise. I mean, the two are very similar, but you can assume that in an enterprise, everyone should have the same purpose, while this is not always true for people working in different enterprises.
Thanks, Luca. I think that makes perfect sense. Mart, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree with Luca. Indeed, the CRM is usually more commercially focused, external to the business, and business relationship management maybe more internally focused. But I'd like to maybe be a little bit more thought-provoking and say, well, actually, I don't think there's a lot of difference. In other words, we're talking about relationship between people in general, or between teams or departments or organizations. It's unfortunate that we have these two different names. That's maybe the next thought-provoking statement here. I think there shouldn't be much of a difference.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Mart. Thanks. Totally agree. Darrel, you would like to add an example, I believe, for us.
Yes, actually, there's an organization that we've done work with from the Institute that actually took business relationship management and added it to their customer success managers. 90 of them, they trained them up in business relationship management. There is a bit of a difference in the formal training and discipline of customer success management and business relationship management. In a 1-year period, they were able to grow incremental sales of their top 100 corporate accounts by over $19 million. And so when you actually combine the professional discipline of business relationship management to some of the other relationship management roles, you can achieve the kind of great impact on results that organizations are looking for.
Fantastic examples there, Darrel. Thanks. I think we have to agree with you there. And I'd like to also agree with Mart a little bit that, should they be called the same thing? Is there really a difference between the two names? And traditionally, a customer relationship manager was a technical term used for a salesperson, back in the days, right? But thankfully, that has now evolved, that role, to something quite more significant. And I think the key word being relationship here is something that gives them both the synergy. So great thoughts, everybody. I think let's take our next question, Adriana, and then we can do some social.
Of course, Nigel. Our next question comes from Rachel, and she wants to know what is the most effective first step for someone who is getting started in the field of business relationship management.
Well, now that is an interesting question. The first steps to becoming a BRM. Panel, what are your thoughts on this? Mart, start us off, and then we'll go to Luca, Jyoti, and move on from there.
Maybe a shot for an open goal. That is, of course, there's the Business Relationship Management Institute, which has a ton of information on their website, and that multiplies exponentially once you become a member, as far as what information is available to you as far as a first step. So do your research on that particular website and poke around on some of the free publications, the webinars that have been posted. Join their LinkedIn group and follow them. In other words, I would say as a first step to get familiar with what is administration management, that would be a good start.
Great. Some really good sage advice there, Mart. Thank you very much. Luca, you'd like to add something?
Yes, please. I totally agree with Marta, because some concepts in the BRM body of knowledge by the Institute are absolutely interesting. And then you can think of finding a mentor in your organization. Someone not necessarily with a BRM title, but someone who is actually managing relationships in order to understand what this kind of job look like in reality.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, Luca. Finding a mentor, somebody who can guide you through this journey, because it is a journey, isn't it? Absolutely. Okay, Jyoti, is your audio back? Can we hear you?
I hope so.
Yes, it is. Well done.
Thank God. Okay, so for me, like I'll say that the first step for being a BRM is connect with your why you want to be a BRM. So if you know your why, I think how becomes easier. And as mentioned, you find the mentor, you have a BRM institute, network with the people. Those are the next steps. So first connect with your why.
Okay, also good advice. Why would you want to become a business relationship manager? Why indeed? Yeah, it's not an easy job, actually, sometimes. But I think it's a very rewarding job if you do it in the right way. It can be incredibly rewarding. All right. Thank you, Jyoti. Ahmed, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, primarily, I mean, I would consider this thing as like, anyone who joins any organization as a BRM, the very first thing he or she should do is to identify the internal stakeholders, because this role is primarily very much focusing on the internal enterprise. And every enterprise and organization varies industry to industry and their operating models as well. Such as, and this role is very much, I think, has been accommodated by the large size organizations, because in small to mid-size organizations, this relationship management role is very much been exercised by the CIOs, CTOs themselves with the business executives. But when it comes to here, where we have a team of BRMs and they are been assigned a different portfolios. So very first thing they should do is to identify their key stakeholders, who are the business heads. And of course, in order to understand their needs, they need to develop a demand landscape and map it to their internal IT capabilities as well, which basically defines their way forward.
Thanks, Ahmed. Darrel, I think you would like to add something, and then we'll move on to Mart.
Yes. So BRMs at the core are all about enabling the purpose of the organization that they're working for. And so that is the first step, is understand your purpose and then start connecting the relationships and the activities and the projects and programs to driving the purpose in the organization. And if you start there and start making decisions about what you focus on and what you have others around you focus on, that's the beginning of getting to that end point of an effective business relationship manager.
Great advice, Darrel. Great advice. Thank you. Mart, what are your thoughts?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to add another point. I looked at the question again, and it talks about getting started in the field of business relationship management. As if it is something special for a happy few or so. I'd say everybody is involved. When you work in an organization, then you are in the field of business relationship management. It is all about the connections that you have in your organization, the collaborations that you have fruitful relationships with your coworkers, your peers, your leaders, that you all, in essence, get along, because then great things can happen. And the effective part of this question is definitely a BRM competency model that the BRM Institute has put forward, where you can self-assess how competent you are when it's about relationship. And that's for everybody in the organization. It's not just for the people that have that job title that's called BRM, Business Relationship Manager. You know, everybody should be competent in establishing healthy relationships.
Totally agree with you, Mart. Totally agree. I think that everybody on the panel's given some fantastic advice here. So, just to summarize, guys, one really good place would be to start with the BRM Institute's website. There's a huge, huge amount of information on there. There's some road mapping information. There's a whole bunch of stuff about how you should become or what you need to do to become a BRM. Get educated. That's the next thing. There's plenty of areas where you can get educated. Take a look on our website. The QR code on screen now will take you to the how to become a business relationship manager qualifications. So there's a couple of them there. Assign yourself a mentor. Okay? Try and find somebody within your organization who can help you to become a mentor. So there's lots of things that you can do to get started. And I think Darrel's advice, really, really good. Start thinking like a BRM. Okay? Even if you don't have the title of a BRM, start thinking like one. In other words, what would you do to try to help the organization reach its goals? Okay? And how can you influence others to do the same thing? And you're already starting to get onto the right track there. All right. Thank you very much. Well, I can see the questions are stacking up and we've got a ton of people watching us online. Just want to say thanks, shout out to everybody. Without you guys, this wouldn't be a show. So, I'd like to welcome Olumani here. He's joining us from Nigeria. Welcome. It's great to have you on the show. We've got another couple of folks here from Sierra Leone. Wow, that's interesting. Sierra Leone. Nice to have you here. Who else have we got online? Wow, Laurie, welcome from New York and welcome to APMG, Laurie. Laurie works for APMG. And Utetsi, hi. Nice to see you here from Lesotho. Wow, excellent. So tons and tons of people joining online. Welcome, everybody. If you want to ask a question, please don't be shy. Get involved in the chat. Pop your questions into the chat and we'll get them over to the panel to answer live while we're on air. Get them in early, by the way, because those questions are stacking up already. And with that, I think, Adriana, let's move rapidly on to our next question.
Of course, Nigel. So we're going to start with the live questions already. And the first one comes from Ayo. And why is business relationship management so strategic and tactical? And is there a difference between business relationship and business analysis?
Okay, very interesting question, this. Okay, a very interesting question. I think, Luca, why don't you start us off on this?
Yes, so let's start from, I will answer to the second part and leaving my colleagues to answer the first part. Business relationship management and business analysis. Business relationship management is all about growing relations in your organization. I'm working as a consultant in a software industry, a software factory here in Italy, and they are struggling to work together, aligned to a common purpose. Relationship management is used to solve these kind of problems. Obviously, while providing value to your stakeholders, you often will help develop solutions. And when you develop solutions, a business analyst will be very useful. And in my experience, very often I've seen business relationship managers and business analysts work together. Maybe the business relationship managers in a more senior role, while the business analysts in a more junior role or tactical role. So answering a part of the first part.
Very, very good. And that actually makes perfect sense. So, Mart, I think you'd like to add something to this.
I agree with Luca said. Indeed, I'd like to build on that. So relationships within an organization are everywhere. At a strategic level, at a technical level, at an operational level, they are everywhere. And the healthier these relationships, the more mature these relationships at all these levels, the better the organization will function as a whole. So when the question is asked, why is it so strategic? I would say, think of, well, in the US, you call this soccer. The rest of the world calls it football. You know, if you look at these big tournaments, who wins the cup eventually, it's not always a team with the most star players on it. It's just a team that is actually a true team and comes and functions as a team. And that's what business relationship management is all about, to become that winning team in essence. And you don't necessarily need to have, the multi-million-dollar star players on it. It'll help. It's no guarantees to success.
Good point, Smart. And I love your analogy there, actually, the football/soccer analogy. And you're quite right. Sometimes having those really expensive superstars actually is counterproductive to the whole relationship management thing. Yeah. So very good point. It's the team that works together as a team and functions as a team that usually consistently wins in the end. Good points,
Exactly.
Definitely. All right. Ahmed, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to answer this question in a slightly different manner because if we most of the organizations, in fact, like even including Fortune 500 organizations today, are complaining about the disalignment of their the strategic efforts and operational the business operations and all that. And because of that, there is a lot of challenges in order to align all of the business functions on a single strategic objective. I'm saying this is the answer. Business relationship manager, an effective business relationship management in any organization answers that and solves those defragmented or the different silos within the organization. Because a successful corporate governance model comprising of processes, structures, and relationships in order to achieve an effective strategic alignment. And that's where it is very important to exercise this role at the strategic level, at the tactical level, at the operational level as well. And being that said, yes, indeed, it is different from a business analysis point of view because we do analyze the business problems and come up with the solutions. That's slightly sort of a different role, which is referred as a business analyst. So BRM is basically a bridge between business to business or IT to business functions in order to align and strategize the efforts towards the common corporate goals.
Yeah, that actually makes perfect sense, Ahmed. Thanks. Jyoti, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll say that business relationship management is both strategic and technical. And for BRMs, no 2 days are alike. So sometimes we are on the strategic table and sometimes we are, helping with the tactical daily operations. So it is both strategic and tactical. The role is to, as just said, that the role is to break the silos and the solos and to bridge the gap. And the intent is to converge all stakeholders on the same platform.
Great thoughts also, absolutely. So I'm going to turn this around to Ayoth and say, if business relationship management isn't strategic to your organization, it should be. Yeah, it absolutely should be. All right. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Good answers, panel. Adriana, can we move on and take our next question, please?
Of course. We're going to continue with the live questions. And the next one comes from Peter. And he wants to know, how can we integrate BRM into ICT system development?
Interesting question. How can you integrate business relationship management into ICT system development? Okay. Talking about two totally different things here. But Ahmed, let's start off with you, then we'll talk to Luca.
Right. So the way I could see playing this function along with the ICT system development team is to, first of all, BRM is supposed to understand the business side of it, like the business requirements and what exactly is the demand and documentation. And it helps, the BRM is supposed to help transforming that business requirements into a bit of sort of a technical language, which is more understandable by the system development team. And that's how I think the bridging up the gap between the business side of it and the IT side of it can be addressed and work effectively in this such scenario.
Thanks, Ahmed. Interesting perspective there. Luca, what are your thoughts?
My experience is that BRM has proved very useful in helping the business function really understand their needs. A simple example coming from my practical experience, in one of the company I worked with, the HR department came out with a request for a sophisticated AI system for analyzing the behaviors in the company, very, very sophisticated system. The BRM asked the why. They understood the why. Then they talked about how the system could possibly produce value, and the HR function understood that they have no capability to manage the huge amount of data this particular system would have produced. So they decided not to do the ICT system development. So the BRM will help your ICT department to understand what are the right thing to develop and how
Luca,
to take out value from that. Sorry, Nigel.
No, not at all. I love the passion in your answer, because I can actually see exactly the point that you were trying to make. I think that the BRM really should be there to help ICT decide what the art of the possible actually is. So what could be done, versus what isn't really a good idea, because not everything is a good idea, right? So very, very good example there. Very good example, Luca. Thanks. Jyoti, you'd like to add something quickly?
Yeah, I agree with Luca that BRM is the liaison between the business and the IT, and BRM should be able to understand both the languages. IT has a different terminologies and business talks in different words. So one should understand both the languages, and then only can bridge the gap. And also the role of the BRM is to ensure that both business and the IT is aligned with the organization strategy. So they're not, they're working on the same direction and working with the organization strategy.
Yeah, very good point. This is actually, you'd think the question doesn't really say a lot, right? But how would you actually integrate, ICT and BRM together? Actually, there are a ton of ways. Okay? There really are a ton of ways where one can help the other and vice versa. Okay? ICT can also help the BRM. By the way, don't forget that ICT can help the BRM by helping them to understand what is literally physically possible within the scope of what their mandate. So could we deliver something along those lines? So yeah, and bringing the two together, it's an age-old problem, but the BRM definitely will help with bringing IT and the business closer together. It's all about relationships, everybody, all about relationships. We have got so many live questions coming in at the moment. I just want to say thanks to the audience for getting them in there. And I think we'll just move on straight away, because I know there's a lot of questions stacking up. Adriana, may we have our next one?
Of course. The next question comes from Jyoti, and he wants to know, how could business relationship management and its strategy apply to value chains and markets in the development sector?
Okay, that is quite an interesting question. How could it apply to value chains and markets in the development sector? Well, I think if you look at this from a normal perspective, on a high level, business relationship management is absolutely going to provide value by increasing your relationship potential. Okay? I think, Darrel, I'm going to pick on you for this one, because I know that you have experience in these areas. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is a very interesting, great question, because it almost is so abstract of how does business relationship management attach to what really will be a strategic component at the executive table, value chains, what markets do we drive into? And the relationship manager needs to be aware of what is happening at that executive table, at that, or those executive decisions. Where are we trying to connect processes inside our organization and outside of our organization for those full value chains from start of production all the way through out to customers? And which markets do we get into? And so the business relationship manager is the one in the organization that needs to know all the different parts, all the different functions, and the right stakeholders to bring to bear to add the right information, so those decisions at the top, to simplify the value chain, to pick the right markets at the right time, critical to have that BRM integrated part of every conversation, so that the decision makers and the execution arms are fully able to really understand what we're going after.
Thanks, Darrel. I totally agree with you. And I think that one of the key things here, would you agree, though, is embedding the BRM function at all levels of the business, particularly in the directorship level.
Absolutely. As soon as the topic and the conversation comes out, what kind of value chain do we want to have? The BRM should be actually, in my opinion, be driving that. They should be at the point where they're trusted. They should be driving, where do we have value chains now? Where do we have broken value chains? Where do we have markets that we have the potential to grow in? That's the level a business relationship manager needs to be thinking about. And again, coming to, what is the purpose of the organization? How are we setting up all areas of the business and all decision making at the executive table to achieve that purpose ultimately at the organization top level?
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me. Oh, thanks, Darrel. Appreciate it. Mart, what are your thoughts? And we'll move on to Ahmed.
I'd like to approach the question from a particular angle, and that's the connector angle. As in, business relationship management is all about making the right connections and having the right connections. And if we're looking at the title of the show, how to become a business relationship manager, then you should be familiar with the value chains around you in your organization or between your organization and other organizations. Same for the market that you operate within. Know the market inside out. Have connections in that market as far as people that are of value to you or to your organization. In other words, that all help develop that organization. In other words, having the right connections, making the right connections, and then nurturing these connections is what this is all about.
Good point, Mart. Fantastic. Thank you. Ahmed, what are your final thoughts on this quickly before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo the same points for Luca and Mart, is that's where actually the strength and the power of the BRM comes, with the true spirit in bridging up, the complete end-to-end supply chain, and what exactly in the context of the business the value is. That is anything which stakeholder demands. So who exactly knows the key demand from the business side and the internal capabilities to deliver is the BRM. So from a development perspective, especially like in terms of product development sector, I think BRM is the strength and the power of the business in delivering the business value.
Yeah, I agree with you there completely. Okay, let's move on rapidly, everybody. We've got so many questions stacking up. So, Adriana, what is our next question,
Sure, Nigel.
please?
Our next question comes from Stefan, and he wants to know if you can give him some practical examples of a successful implementation of the BRM role.
Wow. Okay, so I think on this panel, it's going to be one of those, well, guys, can you just pick one? Because everybody has tons and tons of examples. Who would like to go first? Okay, let's take two then. I think we can, or three, maximum three. Okay, so we'll go for Luca, Ahmed, and Jyoti.
My favorite one, so I apologize if someone has heard it before from me in a previous session. I was amazed in a company in which the director of learning and development has built a network of internal managers, external training providers, internal and external trainers, building whole communities, putting together also people that are actually competitors. So I entered into relation, my company entered into relation with other people, other suppliers providing training services, actually giving them and us more and more value. So I was amazed and still amazed.
Great example. Fantastic. Ahmed, what's your example?
Yeah, my example is from a BFSI, where in a large bank institution, our BRM role was like separated through the different portfolios. So one of the BRM can be given a portfolio of the relevant business functions, such as support functions, or I would say more relevantly, which where I have practiced 20 years back was I was given a portfolio of risk and control functions where I used to sit with the business executives in order to understand their needs and develop a demand portfolio for them. And then I have been given access to the IT architects team where I was sitting and developing a capability model. And by joining both of them and mapping, I think that was the perfect model of any BRM to have at the hand to go and talk to the business or the board level that what would be the most effective strategy to address the business challenges on the way.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you. Jyoti, your example briefly before we move on.
Yeah. So I'll share my example from my previous organization where we were going through the digital transformation journey. And the catalyst that actually helped drive the digital transformation was adding the role of BRM into the organizations because the departments or the teams were not even talking with each other or, collaborating, or they were working in silos. So the BRM role actually added as a catalyst to the digital transformation.
Excellent. Fantastic. Stefan, I hope that gives you enough examples for my friends. We'll move on briefly or quickly, should we say, to our next question. Thanks, Adriana.
Sure, Nigel. Next question comes from Aya again. What does business relationship management have to do with service desk, and do they overlap? Can we evaluate its link with continual improvement?
Interesting. Darrel, why don't you kick us off with that one?
Yeah, you bet. First, everyone's going to think that the service desk is very tactical, very small, minute issues and problems. And so the business relationship management function from the perspective of leadership is to take a strategic view of what are the issues. What is the impact of a number of the issues? If we have a collection of them that are impeding a business unit, a business function from being able to succeed, and it's applying that bigger thinking of what can happen to the sum of the small parts, and can we go tackle a solution and a resolution so that the business units, our business partners out there, are able to move forward instead of getting stuck in the quagmire of small technical issues. And how do we improve the ability to maybe even take a small issue and find out at the same time, is there something more going on inside your organization that we can help out with? So using this point of contact within an organization to focus it into how can we help drive the individuals further forward in that business unit to, again, achieve business objectives, connecting those relationships inside to the results we're looking for.
Great examples there. Thank you so much, Darrel. That really does help. Mart, what are your thoughts on that?
I'd like to answer the second question as far as the linkage to continual improvement, where according to the BRM Institute, it's one of their recommendations is that the business relationship manager should actually help driving the ideation practice in an organization to make sure that people are being heard when they have ideas and when they put forward a better way of operating or becoming more efficient or effective. People have tons and tons of ideas how to make their lives easier at work or how to be a better organization for their customers, paying customers, or when it's about collaborating with others. I mean, these ideas should get a chance to be surfaced and then being, implemented eventually. So that's in its essence all about continual improvement. So BRMs should play a huge role when it's about continual improvement. And there's more examples there, but this is just a start where to make a pitch for continual improvement and business relationship management go hand in hand.
Thanks, Mart. I totally agree with you there. They really do go hand in hand. Jyoti, what are your final thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll say that it's a thin line between the helping as a service desk and supporting as a BRM, and one should not become the single point of contact, and rather should try to be the single point of focus. And you should be a good connector to connect the people with the right people and the teams. I'll say that.
Now, you make a very good point there, so I wanted to raise that as well. You need to be really careful as a BRM that you don't become the person that gets everything dumped onto you and become the only conduit between your, the service desk and the rest of the business, right? So it's about enablement. It's not about taking over responsibility for it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Good points. Yep. Excellent. Yeah. Very, very good thoughts there, everybody. Thank you. I can see the questions are stacking up and we're running out of time here. So for the audience's sake, let's move on, get some more questions in. Adriana.
Of course, Nigel. The next question comes from James, and he wants to know, is being a BRM a lifelong career commitment or opportunity?
Wow. Okay. So is it a lifelong career commitment or an opportunity? Well, I think everybody'd like to answer this. So I think we'll start with Luca, then we'll go to Mart to begin with. Okay.
Well, it is both. It is an opportunity for a lifelong career commitment. Until you are in an organization, you are managing relationships. So absolutely.
So short answer, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Mart, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree. It's definitely both. To give you an example, I was at the birth, so to speak, of a BRM team about 6 years ago, 14 BRMs from the get-go. And I was fortunate to be back at that same organization about 5 years later. And guess what? 4 out of those 14 BRMs basically had taken on VP positions in other parts of the organization because they know the organization inside out. In other words, they were in high demand by these parts of the organization where they became a vice president. In other words, yeah, it definitely is a stepping stone to something fantastic.
Great advice and great examples there. Thank you, Mart. Jyoti, your thoughts?
So I'll say relationships are the heart of both our personal and professional lives. So I'll say it's an opportunity and commitment both.
Yep. I have to agree with everybody in here. I'd say, firstly, it is a huge opportunity. If you look around at the moment on the job boards that are out there, the career paths that people are looking for, people are searching actively, employers, this is, for BRMs. Okay? So there's a big opportunity to get into the field if you have the right skills, and level of commitment and interest in this area. But, as a famous band once said, once you check in, you never leave. Right. So I think once you get into becoming a BRM, the likelihood of you stepping out of it is not very high. You're going to be doing it because it is both a very, very rewarding career and fulfilling career, but it can also be challenging as well. Yeah. As I think it was you earlier, Jyoti, you said no 2 days are the same for a BRM. Okay. Literally, no 2 days are the same. Everything is different. So, and I think it's also, I'd like to add this to this, it's also a lifelong learning opportunity. Because I don't think that you ever finish becoming a BRM, in terms of your learning. Every opportunity that you get into in discussions, relationships, everyone is unique. So you're going to come across that in all organizations that you work within. So if you're thinking about it, James, just do it. You won't regret the decision. All right. Thanks, everybody. Let's move on to the next question.
The next question comes from Dodd. He wants to know, what are the top 3 skills for the BRM role in NGO sector?
Interesting. Top 3 skills for the BRM role in the NGO sector. Well, I kind of wonder whether these are specific to an NGO sector or in general. I know the question asks in the NGO sector, but what would the top 3 skills for a BRM be in any sector, really? Mart, let's start off with you, then we'll go to Luca, then Jyoti.
I'll start off with just mentioning one. I think I touched on it earlier, as in being a good connector, having great relationships, having great network, and nurture your network, connected within the organization, outside the organization, the market, the industry, know your competitors. and bring in these connections, bring in information to your organization is one of the skills I'd say it's really important for a BRM.
Great. Very, very good one, Mart. Thank you. Luca, what is your top skill?
Yes, agree with Mart. My choice would be being able to build a powerful storytelling, a powerful narrative about the purpose of the NGO and about the contribution of everyone to the final purpose.
Yeah, both very, very good points. Thank you, Luca. Jyoti, your thoughts on this?
I think being considerate is an important skill because relationships involve human and it's like a very sensitive, it involves emotions. So being considerate, understanding others' perception is very important.
Very, very good points, definitely. I think that, from an NGO sector, from my perspective, I think all of the skills that everybody has just listed are very, very valid. Being able to understand and develop empathy for what's going on within the NGO and what the NGO's primary purpose is will be a good one. But storytelling is also a very useful skill to have in this. Yeah. So lots of top skills there. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Adriana, may we have our next question, please?
Of course. The next question comes from Julie, and she wants to know, she currently works in customer care and have built my career around it. How easy would it be for me to study to become a BRMP without interfering with my day job?
Okay. So it sounds like she's got a solid base in customer care already, Julie, and you want to get into and become a certified BRM, or become a business relationship management professional. So how would you go about doing that? Well, there are plenty of options for studying, for sure. I think the educators among us here, who would like to kick this one off? Mart, do you want to start with this? I know you do this, yes. Luca, you do this every day.
It's again a shot for open goal. Of course, you want to take the BRMP class and become certified and, in essence, learn what you already, you may hear a few things that confirm what you've been doing all along, and now it's called business relationship management. In other words, get the credential to get the credits for something that you already have been doing. And of course, on top of that, you will learn a few more things around, let's say, how to drive value in an organization, right? In other words, there's techniques for that. In other words, set aside the time, and make the investment, become BRMP certified, and actually go the extra mile and become a CBRM, a certified business relationship manager, to also know how to apply all these best practices that the BRM Institute puts forward, and actually start practicing what you've learned to become even more successful in your role.
Great advice, Mart. Thank you. Luca, what's your advice?
From a very practical standpoint, the BRMP needs a little bit of study. So, for example, you can choose a class. Some classes run only 4 hours a day for 5 days. So you can, for example, follow the class in the morning and then read the book in the afternoon. And in a week, it should be quite easy to get your BRMP.
Fantastic advice. Thank you very much, Luca. Jyoti, what's your final advice?
Yeah, my advice as a student, because I'm not a trainer, the BRMP, Julie, don't just stop at the BRMP. I'm sure you should do all the CBRM as well, because BRMP will definitely give you what and why BRM, but you will get the how from the CBRM. So it's a whole set of toolkits and stories there. So don't just stop at BRMP.
Great advice from everybody. I would say a couple of things you should definitely do. Number one, if you want to find out a little bit more about this, join the BRM Institute. It really is not expensive, and there is a massive, massive amount of real life stuff that you can get hold of from that site, bodies of knowledge, study material, all sorts of things. Sign up for a class. There are so many classes available. I'm not sure where you are in the world, Julie, but have a look on the APMG website, and you'll find lots of training providers for BRM. And the other thing is, take a look at the rest of our YouTube channel for the Level Up series. There is lots and lots of content around the BRM function. Yeah, not learning, not to teach you to write the exam, but just more and more information about it. So, okay, folks, I think we have time probably to squeeze in one, maybe two questions if we're really quick. So, Adriana, may we have our next question, please?
Of course. The next question comes from Amanda from Denver. She wants to know, what is a good background to have as a BRM?
What is a good background to have as a BRM? Is there an ideal background to have as a BRM? Should you be a customer relationship manager to begin with? Mart, why don't you kick us off with this, and then we'll go to Ahmed.
I'll just pick one. Definitely know the business. Yes, know the business inside out. Work with the experts, let's say the business analysts or the folks that do projects. Yes, in other words, know the business inside out to be of more value to the organization. And that includes making the right connections within the organization. So I'd say start there.
Yeah, fantastic advice there, Mart. Definitely. Ahmed, what are your thoughts briefly?
Yeah, just to echo the same point which Mart said, is like understanding the business itself is the core of it. Having a business acumen and the understanding the needs of the stakeholders is very important. If she's coming from a different organization or a different role per se, then I think it's important to exercise the interpersonal skill set within the same context of the organizational culture. That would help a lot.
Fantastic. Good points, Ahmed. Thanks. Darrel, what are your final thoughts on this?
So it's almost like character traits. And the first one is curiosity. Be curious. And so know the business, know the problems. But really the tie-in for me is the desire to solve problems through relationships, through others, how to identify where the relationship strength is that can solve a problem. And as importantly, where maybe you don't have a great relationship strength within a group of people that you need to, and you go and be that go-between. Combination of curiosity and building relationships to solve problems is the background to set you up to learn the material to be able to be an effective BRM.
Great advice from the panel. Fantastic advice, guys. You're on fire today. I totally agree with all of everything that you've said. Really good background. Really enjoy dealing with people. Yeah, that helps as well, right? You must like that part. I mean, if you're very much an introvert, doesn't mean you can't be a BRM, but that would be something you would want to work on as a skill, right? To try to learn how to interact with people and enjoy that function. Yeah, that's also very important to have. All right. I think we can squeeze in one more question if we're very, very quick. So, Adriana, what is our last question?
The last question comes from Gretchen. She wants to know, do I need to earn any certifications to become a BRM?
Very, very good question, Gretchen. Okay, so we'll go from Ahmed to Luca to Darrel.
So my answer to this question is no. BRM is a very natural role. I think it's more sort of a business lifestyle, being more extrovert, relationship oriented, and the solution focused person. So certification is just a paper, a stamp of attestation of the experience, though. But more important is the skill set.
Good, very good points there. Definitely, the skill set is important. Luca, what are your thoughts?
The short answer is no. You don't need any certification. But I think that the model that the Institute developed, the framework, the BRM capability framework, is terrific. You should absolutely know that framework.
Good point. Good point. And final thoughts, Darrel?
So I agree with everyone. You don't need to have certification to become a BRM, but I'm going to make a correlation to being a good cook. You can be a good cook at home. You can have everyone love your cooking in your family. Your extended family can come and enjoy the meals that you make, but you would die in a kitchen in an actual restaurant if you tried to go and take those skills that you grew and apply it to actual professional cooking. And so the same thing, if you want to be disciplined and be able to exhibit in all situations the effective level of a BRM, you need to go get that certification to understand all the aspects and all the tools available for you to be able to deal with situations and to be capable of driving the relationships forward within an organization.
Fantastic advice there. And you're absolutely right. I think your cooking metaphor is a very, very good one. And, if you think about it, you don't need any certification to be a BRM, right? But that means you might have the aptitude to do it, but having the certification proves that you can do it. Yeah? And the data, the intricacies of the role, the frameworks. So it really does help you. You don't have to have it, but I would highly recommend it. Panel, I just wanted to say thank you. It was an absolutely fantastic set of questions. We got through a lot of them in a very short space of time. The hour goes so quickly. So I'd just like to walk around the panel quickly through your closing remarks before we move on. Mart, what are your closing thoughts?
Great questions indeed. I think, and then a ton of information came from this episode. I'd like to finish with a quote from Leonardo da Vinci. Luca, you may have heard of this person. He once said, and it's about connections, since we talked about it in this episode, he said, realize that everything connects to everything else.
Good point. Everything does connect to everything else. That's absolutely true. Okay, thank you, Mart. Luca, what are your final thoughts?
This a fantastic episode, a lot of interesting questions, fantastic point of view from my fellow panelists. Every organization exists to make the world better, and it's linked to what Mart just said.
Thanks, Luca. Appreciate it. Ahmed, your final thoughts.
Yeah, my thoughts are, if you really wanted to be a good BRM, develop a habit of jumping into the problems and try to solve them. This will help, gives you the opportunity to develop stronger relationships and more respect in the organization.
Very, very good points. Thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. Darrel, what are your final thoughts?
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for being so kind to me in my first episode. Really great panel, really great questions. Thanks to the audience for sure. Most people, you're going to find out when you start getting into BRM that you're already part of it. What this unlocks is becoming part of the community is how to be very good and how to be an expert and a master at it above the others. And that is such an important role in an organization, to take relationships and make them better and improve them. And organizations who do that, they thrive.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what this is all about, right? Trying to make the organization thrive. So very good. Jyoti, what are your final comments?
Yeah, I want to thank everyone here and APMG for this Level Up series. And my final comment is always try to leave things better than you found them, be it a place or any relation.
I love that. Leave things better than where you found them. Fantastic advice. Panel, thank you so much. You guys have been absolutely wonderful today. Fantastic answers. And we've created some really great learning content here for anybody who would like to watch the show. All right. And I'd like to thank our audience, by the way, as well. Without you, the show wouldn't be possible. And you've delivered some phenomenal questions today. I hope we stood up and answered it enough for you. So let us know if you have more questions. We'll be doing another show on BRM in the near future. All right. So well done, everyone. Over on our website, you can search for the answers to over 2,000 questions now, which is a database is growing very rapidly. It's a comprehensive free resource connecting you with 200 experts, or more than 200 now, around the world. And don't forget, you can also listen to the audio versions of the shows on your preferred podcast platform. Please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Yeah? It doesn't cost you anything, and it really does help new people to discover the content out there. So please do that. Looking forward now, join us on Monday the 12th at 8 a.m. GMT as we look at how to achieve an agile mindset. Always a popular topic. And on Wednesday the 14th at 1 o'clock, we take a look at the ISO 37000 framework and why governance is so important in organizations and how you can achieve it. So that's a Connect show. On Friday the 16th at 2 p.m., we discuss how to become a NIST cybersecurity professional. And on Monday the 19th, we look at how to engage stakeholders. All details are on our apmginternational.com. So subscribe to the show and we'll send you a personal summary of what's coming up next and how you can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next show.